Alright, Pretend here, back with another Honkai Star Rail video. And now with ACHERON being released, I wanted to release this video right before the whole releases on all the servers, but I kind of forgot. But I wanted to make a video centered on ACHERON, so this is all going to be talking about ACHERON. I already kind of have a video talking about if you should summon with her and aventurine, where I already do briefly talk about their states in the meta right now and what I do think. But this video is going to be going a lot more in depth about ACHERON specifically for you to consider before you do summon. A lot of people probably already pulled because once again I'm kind of late on recording this, so if you're holding off, then congrats, you can watch this video to influence your decision. And if you already did, then my fault. Anyway, that's all I gotta say before I get to the video. Drop a like, drop a sub, hit the bell icon for more videos like this. There's over 80% of you guys still not subscribed that watch my videos on the daily. What are you doing? You're literally just one button away from supporting the channel. Greatly appreciated. If you don't hit it, then boom, your next 50-50 after this video is a guaranteed loss. Anyway, let's get into it. So first, let's talk about the beginning of ACHERON. So ACHERON, when she came out, was the first time we've seen such a major jump. Or well, not first time, but like you could kind of tell the difference between when we got Danheng and Jinglu. That was a big increase in power jump already in the game, but when we got ACHERON, that's when it kind of got really bad. Because Danheng and Jinglu were undisputed best of their time, obviously, but they weren't so far ahead of like the other characters. There was other stuff that can be happening. Blade was still performing, you know, Zele was still good. Not to say Zele still isn't good anymore, but she like was a lot better back then, obviously. But ACHERON, so ACHERON came into the game no matter what investment, despite the issues she has now when it comes to investment. The investment back when she came out, she just soloed all content pretty much. Just a good team built around her and you were killing everything. Easily dealing millions, easily just one-shotting everything, and that was the biggest power jump we've seen in the game. Now with the time progressing and it being over half a year since she did first release and now we're on her first rerun, the game has kind of centered balance around dealing damage compared to her. She still can deal a crap load of damage, but the game was sort of starting to get balanced around her, which kind of made it harder for other DPSs and such. And also the meta changes from going off of her hyper carry to stuff like follow-up attack and especially break. That's what's kind of making it a little harder for her to function depending on your level of investment. So ACHERON's current state, a lot of people are calling her really bad now, which is insane to me. I do not think she's bad. Even at E0S0, I don't think she's bad at all. But before you do summon for her, I do want you to know so you don't go in with realistic expectations. If you are just looking to pick up one copy of ACHERON and running her on a more free-to-play side team, so let's say ACHERON at E0S0, and then you were running someone like Pela, and then your other Nihota unit, depends on who you have. You could be running Welt, you could have Black Swan to run with her, you could be running Gwenaifen, and then your sustain slot. The thing that people don't usually compare ACHERON with is everyone usually calls her one of the best DPS in the game, which is true, but people don't look at it in a way with her without her light cone. ACHERON with her light cone, yes, is easily one of the top DPSs still to this day, but without her light cone, she is significantly weaker than people put her out to be. That is something you really should consider because compared to her second options to her signature light cone, she is not going to hit nearly as hard as she could. There are some characters where signature light cones do make a pretty big jump, but a lot of characters do not need their signature light cone, but she is unfortunately one of the few characters that gets a very big power spike thanks to her light cone. Her light cone gives you a flat 36% increase to crit damage and also gives you access to a debuff because Crimson Knot is considered a debuff but not a debuff that can give her a charge. So with this light cone, she's able to get 2 charges for her ultimate off her skill, which is insanely broken. And on top of that, anyone with the debuff that she does inflict with the light cone will be taking 24% increased damage, and you get an additional 24% damage increase when dealing damage with ultimate, which is going to be main source of damage for ACHERON. Any other light cone practically fails into comparison when it comes to her signature by a very big amount. And so ACHERON without her light cone is not as good as people put her out to be. She's still fine, she could still clear content well, and if we weren't getting into a new meta potentially very soon, I would still recommend getting her even if you were getting her at E0S0. But then brings to the next point. If you are someone considering E0S0, there is something you really should consider first. With the release of Sunday, who's going to be in the update after this, so literally right after the aventurine and ACHERON reruns end, is going to be Sunday. Sunday is seeming to be a character that he's going to be a harmony character, so he's a good buffer for practically any crit DPS, but he's seeming to have wordings that he's going to further buff characters with summons. On top of that, it's seeming 3.0 and above is hinted towards having a summon meta. So this means the meta is going to be morally pulled away from the break and follow-up attacks and focus more on the summon meta. Just like when break was starting to become a thing, more of the meta was going towards that break side, increasing what break can do in buffs and such, constantly getting units and reruns that will benefit the break team and making Break shine as it still does. Similar case will be happening with the summon meta, where most of the focus will be pulled off Hyper Carry, which Hyper Carry is already dying, will be pulled off Follow Up Attack, and will be pulled off Break. Not saying that's going to make them bad, because you don't need the extra buffs to make them broken. Firefly team's insane even without the buffs. Feixiao Follow Up team is absolutely bonkers. But what I'm trying to say is the more focus is going to be going to summon characters. We already have a summon related to Stain being Linksha. We already have a summon buffer that's seeming to be Sunday. And so 3.0 and above is going to heavily focus on that summon meta. Meaning there's going to be less buffs for Acheron. Meaning that the buffs we have right now, or what the options we have right now, is going to be your restrictions. So at E0 S0, do not expect to really receive another character that might solve her issues at E0 S0 by increasing her damage by a lot. The closest you have to that is Jiaoqiu, which Jiaoqiu makes her very, very good at E0 S0. Obviously, still get that insane jump with getting the Lycon. You still very much want that Lycon. And so if you're someone considering to get E0 S0, I definitely recommend holding it off and probably saving it for someone like Sunday, and then saving it for the future summon meta that is probably going to be happening in 3.0 and above. Now, if you're someone that's going to be going for E0 S1, then the decision becomes more Acheron sided, because she is a still really good unit to invest in. At E0 S1 with the proper team is going to perform very, very well. So just your generic tuna hoodies and a sustain at E0 S1, she still pumps out very, very good numbers, is able to very low cycle MOC still. Pure Friction absolutely gets destroyed. Good in Apocalyptic Shadow when the buffs are not completely against her. So at E0 S1, she is going to be really good. Again, especially if you're considering Jiaoqiu with her. At E0 S1 with Jiaoqiu, she's absolutely a monster still to this day. And with that, Lycon definitely puts her at the level that people are putting her at when they do call her one of the best DPSs in the game. Because once again, her without her Lycon definitely falls behind Feixiao without her Lycon or Firefly without her Lycon by a lot, because they just have that many better options and that much of more team ideas. Well, less Firefly, but hers is more free to play and easily buffing her as well. And since Firefly's Lycon is very much not needed, Feixiao is very good, but you can still have other options. Acheron, on the other hand, gets a very big power decrease if you do not have the Lycon. And then once again, if you get Jiaoqiu, which is practically the only unit that is tailor-made towards her, as opposed to the other teams, that's going to be another character you want to definitely consider getting to future-proof Acheron more, because there's no telling. When the summon meta happens, potentially an S1 Acheron could still not be able to compete with the summon meta, because her team's at S1, obviously still really, really good, don't get me wrong, but I think it still falls behind the Firefly team and also falls behind the premium follow-up attack team with Feixiao. But then once you do equate having Jiaoqiu into the equation, then it definitely puts her on the level of those teams. And if you're one of the few percents that are probably considering to get E2 on Acheron, that is still a great investment to this day. And E2 Acheron will absolutely make your performance absolutely wild. There will be no doubt about her being one of the best DPSs if you do have her E2 S1 specifically. Even if you do not have Jiaoqiu, E2 S1 Acheron to this day is still absolutely broken. And if you have E2 S1 with Jiaoqiu, then you practically have no need to worry about anything. All types of content you take her into are still going to get destroyed, even if the meta goes to more towards summons. Acheron's damage output at E2 S1 especially is still just going to be absolutely wild, and then with Jiaoqiu it's going to be more than you need. So an E2 S1 investment is something if you're dedicated on doing, but you're iffy if you think she's going to survive or not. She definitely will. The damage output she has, the multiplier she has, the buffs that she already has in the game. The buffs on the lore side she has currently is probably not going to compare as well as to the summon meta when that comes out and the buffs that that meta will get. Or just any unit having a fall protect just automatically buffing Feixiao by a lot, unless they're a main DPS obviously. And then break related support is probably going to help Firefly, Boo Hill, all that kind of stuff. On the lower side, Acheron is sort of finding a harder way to compete, and that's going to get harder and harder as time progresses, just like any other DPS. But when it comes to E2 S1 and then E2 S1 with Jiaoqiu, you definitely are safe for a good while, because the damage multiplier she has, even if they do not have lightning weakness, she can lower toughness regardless of type. Even if they have a weakness lock and don't have lightning weakness, you still just absolutely shred through them before they can even break. The damage she does at E2 S1 is just insane, and then with Jiaoqiu, it's practically more than you need, as I mentioned. So that's the stuff you kind of want to be considering. At E0 S0, do not have your expectations too high. She will not perform as good as she would with her Lycon. If you do invest into also getting the Lycon, then she's going to perform very, very good and be at the level where people call her one of the best DPSs. And then if you're considering E2 S1, you practically don't have to worry about the summon meta killing her, because while she might become weaker in the summon meta because the focus won't be on her, it'll be on the summon meta. Probably go back to break for a little bit at some point, maybe throw in a follow-up attack. E0 S0 especially will struggle there. E0 S1 will struggle a bit less. Still won't be as good as it would be before. But then E2 S1, the dupes are so good to the point you won't really have to worry about it. And then Jiaoqiu will future-proof that even further, making her very, 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 very competent. And so yeah, that's the stuff you do kind of want to consider when you are subbing for Acheron. Of course, if you're someone that really likes Acheron and you just want to pick her E0 S0 because you really like her, then go ahead, it's your currency. I can't really help you there. I'm just here to kind of give you how it is, how it's real. I'm practically just being real on how it is about Acheron. As someone who's used her at E0 S0, it wasn't as bad back then, but obviously now it's not as good as having an E0 S0 Feixiao or Firefly. E0 S1, easily competent right now, still to this day, especially with Jiaoqiu, absolutely cooks. And then as B, who right now has E2 S1, without Jiaoqiu, absolutely cooks. With Jiaoqiu, just is more than I need. Anyway, hope this video helped you. Peace out.